The transmission reached Earth at 3 in the morning. The signal came through the deep space relay station near Mars, and it carried news that would change everything. Ambassador Charles Harrison was dead. The Galactic Council had executed him for crimes against the Interstellar Collective. The charges were vague. The trial had been closed. The sentence had already been carried out before anyone on Earth even knew he was in danger. Doctor was sleeping when her phone rang. She was the Director of Human Affairs, and she had been waiting for news from the Council for 3 weeks. When she heard the words, she did not move. She did not cry. She simply sat up in her bed and listened as the military officer explained that humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy was gone. Charles Harrison was a good man. He had spent 30 years working for peace between nations on Earth before taking the job as ambassador. He was chosen because he believed in talking, in understanding, in finding ways to cooperate with other species. He had gone to the Council believing that humans had something valuable to offer. He had believed that Earth would finally have a voice in galactic affairs. Now he was dead, and no one had bothered to warn him that it would happen. Got out of bed and put on clothes. She did not shower. She did not eat. She simply dressed and got into her car and drove toward the government building as the sun came up. All around her, people were beginning to find out the news. The transmission had been released to all media. By the time reached her office, the whole world knew that Earth's ambassador had been executed. The message from the Galactic Council was short. It said that Harrison had violated accords by allowing humans to mine asteroids in zones that the Council claimed. Earth had never agreed to these zones. The accords that humans supposedly violated were agreements that no one on Earth had ever signed. The mining operations had started 2 years ago with permission from the Council itself. Then suddenly the rules had changed. The Council said the rules had always been the same. And they said Charles Harrison was a criminal. The vote had been unanimous. 47 alien species, all of them members of the Galactic Council, had voted to execute the human ambassador. Not one of them had objected. Not one of them had asked for a real trial. They had simply decided that Harrison needed to die, and they had done it. Sat at her desk and read the message 3 times. She had never been an angry person. She had built her career on patience and compromise, but as she read the words describing how Harrison had died, something inside her changed. She understood in that moment that patience was useless. She understood that the galaxy did not respect kindness or hope or good faith. The galaxy respected only one thing: power. She walked across the building to the office of President William Cooper. She did not wait for an appointment. She did not knock. She simply opened the door and went inside. The president was on the phone, but he ended the call when he saw her face. He knew her well enough to read what she was thinking. Stood in front of his desk and spoke 3 words: "We strike back." President Cooper did not ask what she meant. He did not ask if she was sure. He simply nodded and picked up the phone again. He made 1 call, then he made another. Within 30 minutes, every senior military officer in Earth's government was being contacted. Within an hour, the president was in a secure room with the leaders of the military, the intelligence agencies, and the Space Command. The meeting lasted 6 hours. By the end of it, a decision had been made. Earth would respond to Harrison's execution. Earth would show the galaxy that executing a human diplomat was not a small thing. It was an act of war. But understood something that anger alone could not teach. A response based only on rage would fail. The Galactic Council had the numbers. They had the experience. They had been fighting wars and playing political games for millions of years while humans had been struggling just to survive on Earth. If humans tried to fight them with brute force alone, humans would lose. So's plan was different. She did not want to destroy the Council through military power. She wanted to show them that their greatest strength was actually their greatest weakness. The Council depended on control. They depended on their ability to communicate across the galaxy. They depended on being seen as powerful and untouchable. If you took away that control, if you cut off their communications, if you made them look weak, then the whole system would collapse. The president approved the plan. He made the call to Admiral, who controlled the human forces in space. The Admiral was told to prepare for combat. He was told to position the ships that Earth had been quietly building for the past 5 years. He was told to get ready to strike at the Galactic Council. But Admiral was also told something else. This was not going to be a simple war. This was going to be a demonstration. Humanity would show the galaxy that we could not be treated like children. We could not be cast aside when we were no longer useful. We had the strength to fight back, and more importantly, we had the intelligence to know how to fight back in a way that actually meant something. News about Harrison's death spread across Earth. In every city, people gathered to remember him. They put flowers at human government buildings. They gave speeches about what he had meant to the species. Some people wanted immediate nuclear war. Some people wanted to hide and hope the council would leave humans alone. But most people understood what, and the president understood. The time had come for humanity to grow up. On the second day after Harrison's execution, recorded a message. She sat in a studio in Geneva and looked into the camera. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. She spoke directly to the people of Earth. Admiral sat in his command center and looked at the screens that showed the galaxy around him. He had been waiting for this moment for 5 years. He had been building ships in secret. He had been training soldiers who did not know what they were really training for. He had been preparing for a war that Earth had never officially declared until now. Was 53 years old. He had spent his entire life in the military. He had never seen real combat. Most of his career had been spent managing supplies and coordinating with the space exploration programs. But he had always known that combat was coming. He had always known that the galaxy was not a peaceful place. He had read every report about alien wars. He had studied every military strategy that the galaxy's different species used. He had prepared himself for this day. When the president's call came through, Admiral was ready. He had already mapped out a strategy. He had already planned where the ships would go and what they would do. The plan had been written down but never spoken aloud. It existed only in his head and in encrypted files that no one could access. The first thing did was activate the sleeper program. This was the name for the human ships that had been placed throughout the outer solar system and beyond. These were not mining vessels or transport ships. They were warships. They had been built in hidden facilities on the moon and in the asteroid belt. They had been armed with weapons systems that humans had developed while studying alien conflicts for 50 years. Nobody in the Galactic Council knew these ships existed. The Council knew about human miners. They knew about human exploration vessels. They knew about human traders trying to make connections with different species. They did not know about Captain Foster and her strike team. They did not know about the 300 soldiers who had trained for years to do one thing: attack the very heart of the Galactic Council. Captain Foster received her orders at a space station near Jupiter. She was 38 years old and had spent her entire military career waiting for a mission like this. She read the orders once. Then she read them again. Then she locked them in her head and burned the physical copies. The mission was simple in theory but incredibly difficult to execute. Foster and her team would lead the attack on the Galactic Council's headquarters. This facility orbited a planet called. It was the center of galactic government. It was where all the major decisions about trade and law and military matters were made. It was considered impossible to attack. The defenses were supposedly so good that no force in the galaxy could breach them. Foster did not believe that anything was impossible. She had studied the Council's defenses for 3 years. She knew every weakness. She had trained her team over and over again on simulations. They had practiced attacking the facility thousands of times. They had learned how to move through the corridors. They had learned where the security systems were. They had learned how to disable them. But Foster also understood something important. The real target was not just the physical facility. The target was the idea that the Galactic Council could not be touched. The target was the belief that the Council was powerful and untouchable. If humans could breach that facility, if humans could get inside the seat of galactic power, then everything would change. Admiral was also working on something else. He had given orders to the engineers at a secret facility in the Colorado mountains. The project was called Operation Severance. What it involved was cutting off the Galactic Council's ability to communicate across the galaxy. The Council's power came from control. The Council could send orders to different species. The Council could coordinate military responses. The Council could make treaties and enforce them. All of this required communication. If you cut off the Council's ability to communicate, then the Council would become helpless. The engineers worked on creating weapons that could destroy communication relays without destroying entire space stations. They worked on codes that could disrupt the Council's internal networks. They worked on systems that could jam the broadcast signals that the Council used to talk to all the different species across the galaxy. It took 4 days to complete the preparations. In those 4 days, Admiral moved ships into position. He had them jump through fold space, traveling faster than normal ships could travel. The older alien species knew about fold space. They used it every day, but humans had only recently learned how to use it. ships moved into position around Council communication relay stations in 6 different star systems. Captain Foster's ship was positioned near. Around her, other ships moved into place. They would all wait for the same signal. When the signal came, they would all attack at the same time. The Council would have no time to call for help. The Council would have no time to coordinate a defense. On the 5th day after Harrison's death, Admiral made a final check of all his ships. Every captain reported that they were ready. Every weapon system was charged. Every soldier was in position. The entire force of human military power was ready to strike. Sent a message too. The message was simple: we are ready. Read the message in her office. She sat alone and thought about what was about to happen. In a few hours, humans would attack the Galactic Council. Humans would kill alien soldiers. Humans would destroy Council property. Humans would declare themselves to be enemies of the most powerful force in the galaxy. There was no going back from this moment, but had already decided that going back was not what she wanted. The Council had chosen to execute an innocent human. The Council had chosen to show that human life meant nothing. Now the Council was going to learn that human anger meant everything. Sent the order to Admiral. The order was simple: attack. Turned to the communications officer and gave a command. The command was transmitted through secure channels to all the human ships in position around the galaxy. The message was encoded so that no alien species could intercept it and understand it. The first strike came from 15 different directions at exactly the same moment. The human ships that had been hiding for months suddenly became visible. They came out of fold space with their weapons already firing. The targets were the communication relay stations that the Galactic Council depended on. These stations sat in empty space, far away from any planet. They were protected by defense systems, but they were not protected well enough. The station in the system exploded in a bright flash of light. The human ship that attacked it had fired precision weapons that hit the communication arrays. The arrays were destroyed. The station could no longer broadcast across the galaxy. The second station, orbiting between 2 red stars in the region, was hit by the same kind of attack. The third station and the fourth and the fifth all suffered the same fate. Within minutes, the Galactic Council's main communication network was damaged beyond repair. Alarms went off in the Council headquarters on. The administrators of the Council did not understand what was happening at first. The communications officers reported that the main relay stations were not responding. Then they reported that the stations were destroyed. Then they reported that human ships were attacking. It took the Council 3 minutes to understand the situation. The humans were attacking. The humans had ships that no one knew about. The humans had weapons that could destroy Council property. And the humans were doing it on purpose on multiple systems all at the same time. The president of the Council, an ancient being called Regent, ordered an immediate response. Military forces would be sent to defend the remaining relay stations. Other species would be contacted and asked to prepare their weapons. The Council would fight back. But the orders could not be sent through the communication network because the network was destroyed. The Regent had to use direct channels, and the direct channels were slow. By the time messages could be sent to the military commanders, the attack was already far advanced. Captain Foster's ship emerged from fold space near the planet. Behind her came 15 other ships. They moved into position around the Council headquarters. This facility was a massive structure that orbited the planet. It was the size of a small moon. Inside it, thousands of alien beings from 47 different species worked to manage galactic affairs. The Council's defense systems came to life, weapons fired at the approaching human ships. But the humans had studied these weapons for years. They knew exactly how the defense system worked. They knew the pattern of fire. They knew how to avoid it. The human ships moved through the attack and got closer to the facility. Foster gave the order to launch the strike teams. The soldiers on her ship prepared themselves. They had been waiting for this moment for years. They had trained over and over again. Now they were finally going to do it. The transport ships launched from the human vessels. They moved toward the Council facility with incredible speed. The Council's weapons tried to stop them, but the humans had too much speed and too good technology. The first transport ship breached the outer hull of the facility. Soldiers poured out of it. They were equipped with weapons and armor that humans had developed using stolen alien technology. Foster led the second wave of soldiers into the facility. She was a soldier, but she was also something more. She was a symbol. She was the human face of this attack. If the aliens could see her, if they could see a human woman leading soldiers into the heart of their power, then maybe they would finally understand that humans were not weak. The fight inside the council facility was intense but did not last long. The aliens who worked there were administrators and politicians, not soldiers. The human soldiers had been trained for real combat. The humans moved through the corridors and took control of the facility section by section. They did not kill everyone they found. They were ordered to avoid unnecessary deaths. But they also did not stop. They secured the facility room by room. While Foster was attacking the council headquarters, other human ships were attacking the personal vessels of the council members. The council was supposed to be protected. The council members had their own security forces, but the humans attacked with such speed and coordination that the council members could not coordinate a defense. The flagship of Lord Ambassador was hit by human weapons. The ship's systems shut down. The crew was evacuated safely, but the message was clear. Nowhere was safe. The council members who wanted to survive had to run. At the same moment, sent out a broadcast message. This message was transmitted on every frequency that humans could access. It was also translated into the languages of the different alien species. The message went out to the entire galaxy. His face appeared on the screens. Her voice was calm and strong. Galactic Council executed an innocent human ambassador without trial. They called it justice. We call it murder. For millions of years, your council has ruled the galaxy with power and fear. They have made rules that only serve themselves. They have destroyed species that refuse to obey them. They have enslaved populations and called it order. Today, this age ends. Humanity is showing the galaxy what it looks like when you threaten us. Humanity is showing the galaxy that we have the power to fight back. We are not asking for permission. We are not begging for mercy. We are showing you that the age of the Galactic Council is over. The message was repeated on every frequency. It reached the different alien species. It reached the military commanders of the Council. It reached the traders and explorers and ordinary beings who lived under the Council's rule. Some species were afraid, some species were angry, but some species, the ones who had suffered under the Council's rule, felt something different. They felt hope. They felt the possibility that things could change. They felt the power of humanity standing up against the oldest and most powerful force in the galaxy. Admiral watched the attack unfold on his screens. Everything was going according to plan. The communications relays were destroyed. The Council headquarters had been breached. The Council members were running or surrendering. The first part of the plan was working perfectly. The aftermath of the attack was chaos. The Galactic Council tried to respond, but without their communication network, they could not coordinate. The different species that served the Council began to act on their own. Some sent their military forces to defend Council space. Some recalled their ambassadors and prepared for war. Some did nothing and waited to see what would happen next. The species that had once raided human mining colonies sent an urgent message to the human fleet. They offered military support. They said that if humans would fight alongside them against the Council, then they would join forces with Earth. The offer surprised many humans, but Admiral understood what was happening. They had suffered under Council rule. They had seen the Council crush their attempts to expand their territory. Now they saw an opportunity to break free from that rule. The architects, beings made of crystalline structure who existed partially outside normal space, transmitted mathematical proofs to the human military. The proofs showed that humans had superior tactical capability compared to Council forces. The architects did not offer direct military support. They were not a warlike species, but by providing analysis of human advantages, they were expressing support for humanity's cause. Even species that had fought humans in border conflicts began to look at Earth differently. The Vulpine raiders who hunted merchant ships near the Outer Rim sent a message saying they would not attack human vessels. The Harmonics, a species that had always served the Council without question, announced that they would withdraw from Council space and declare neutrality. Watched all of this from her office on Earth. She understood what was happening. Humanity had not just attacked the Council. Humanity had shown the galaxy that the Council could be challenged. Humanity had broken the fear that had kept the Council in power for millions of years. But also understood that the attack had not won the war. It had only begun it. The Council still had military forces. The Council still had allied species that were loyal. The next phase would be much more dangerous. 5 of the 6 judges who had voted to execute Ambassador Harrison agreed to surrender to a human tribunal. They came aboard human ships, unarmed, understanding that Earth's justice would be more fair than the revenge of the species they had wronged. These were beings who had helped murder Harrison. They had voted for his death knowing that he was innocent. Now they were prisoners of war, and they faced the possibility of being executed themselves. But the seventh judge, an elderly being named who came from the species, did not surrender. Instead, he escaped. He fled to the furthest reaches of Council space, far away from human military forces. Then he sent a personal message directly to. Received the message in her office. She was tired. She had not slept in 2 days. She had been coordinating with military leaders and making decisions about the next phase of the conflict. When the message came in, her first reaction was to ignore it. She did not have time to talk to council members, but something in the message description made her pause. The subject line said, "I know the truth about Harrison's death." Open the message and read it. What she read made her sit back in her chair, explained that he had been forced to vote for Harrison's execution. He had been pressured by the council's higher powers. He had been told that if he did not vote yes, then his own species would be destroyed. He had voted to save his people, but the price had been the death of an innocent human. Continued by explaining something much more important. He revealed that the Galactic Council had deliberately created the situation that led to Harrison's death. The Council had made up false laws about the mining zones. The Council had changed the rules to make it seem like humans were breaking agreements. The Council had then used those false charges to justify executing the ambassador. But why would the Council do this? Explained. The Council wanted to test humanity. The Council wanted to see if humans would break under pressure. The Council wanted to know if humans could be easily dominated. If humans had accepted Harrison's death without response, then the Council would have known that humans were weak. The Council could have enslaved humanity. The Council could have taken over all human colonies. The Council could have done whatever they wanted. Instead, humanity had fought back. Humanity had shown that breaking humans was not easy. Humanity had shown that humans would defend their own with force and determination. Also transmitted something else. He provided documents that proved everything he said. He provided evidence of centuries of Council crimes. The Council had systematically enslaved 3 separate species. The Council had orchestrated wars between potential rivals to keep them weak. The Council had hoarded technologies that could have ended suffering and disease across dozens of worlds. They had kept these technologies secret because they wanted to maintain control. A species that was suffering and desperate was easier to control than a species that was strong and healthy. Most importantly, provided the location of the Council's primary archive. This was a vault that contained records of every significant transaction the Council had ever made. It contained the secret agreements. It contained the hidden exploitations. It contained evidence of every crime that the Council had committed across millions of years. Captain Foster's team was given the mission to recover this archive. The archive was located on a space station near the edge of Council space. The station was defended, but not heavily. Foster led her soldiers to the station, breached the defenses, and got inside. What they found in the archive shocked even the most hardened military officers. There were records of species being enslaved. There were records of planets being destroyed because they refused to submit to Council rule. There were records of technologies being hidden away because they made the Council less powerful. There were records of judges being bribed. There were records of evidence being destroyed to protect powerful Council members. One file in particular made the soldiers angry. It was the file on Charles Harrison. The file contained emails between Council members discussing how to remove the human ambassador. One message said, "The humans are becoming too confident. We need to remind them of their place." The message was from Regent himself, the head of the Council. Another message said, "Execute Harrison and make an example of him. If the humans respond with force, then they are an aggressor and we can destroy them legally. If the humans do nothing, then they are weak and we can rule them." The Council had calculated that humans would either accept the death without response or would attack recklessly and lose. The Council had not expected humans to respond with calculated strikes that were exactly precise enough to damage the Council without destroying everything. The Council had not expected humans to understand the rules of galactic power so well. Sent the evidence from the archive to every species in the galaxy. She showed them what the Council had really done. She showed them the centuries of crimes. She showed them the proof that the Council had been lying and exploiting them all along. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had been ruled by the Council for thousands of years began to rebel. Military forces that had served the council suddenly found themselves facing rebellions at home. The council's carefully constructed system of power began to fall apart. Admiral watched it all happen from his command center. He had expected that they would have to fight for months or even years to defeat the council. Instead, the council was collapsing on its own. The truth was more powerful than any weapon humans had. Made a decision. She sent a message to the surviving council members. She said that if they surrendered, the trial began 6 months after the attack on the Galactic Council. The location was neutral ground, a space station that had once belonged to an independent trading company. The 5 council members who had surrendered were brought there in secure transport ships. They were kept in separate chambers. They were allowed to have lawyers. They were allowed to speak in their own defense. The trial was broadcast across every network that had survived the conflict. Billions of beings from hundreds of species watched as the 5 judges of the Galactic Council faced justice. The charges were simple: crimes against humanity and crimes against justice itself. The first judge to testify was Lord, the who had cast the deciding vote for Harrison's execution. He sat in the witness chair and tried to explain why he had voted for death. He said that the council had laws. He said that humans had broken those laws. He said that the punishment was decided by the council's charter. But the human prosecutor asked him a simple question: did you believe that Ambassador Harrison actually broke the law? Lord did not answer for a long time. Finally, he admitted the truth. He said that he knew the charges were false. He said that the council had created the charges specifically to justify the execution. The prosecutor asked another question: why did you vote to kill an innocent man? Lord had no good answer. He said that he had been ordered to do it. He said that the council's leadership had demanded the death. He said that if he did not vote yes, he would have been removed from power. The trial continued for 2 weeks. Each judge was questioned. Each one admitted that they had known the charges were false. Each one admitted that they had voted to execute an innocent human being. The evidence from the archive was presented. The gallery watched as the judges' own words were used against them. The sentencing was surprising to many. The judges had expected to be executed. They had expected to be killed just as they had killed Harrison. But the humans had decided something different. The 5 judges were sentenced to life labor on the harshest human colony worlds. They would work in the mines. They would build the cities. They would know the same hardship that humans had known for centuries. They would learn what it meant to struggle for survival without comfort or privilege. They would know the weight of real work, real pain, and real consequences. One judge asked if they would be treated as prisoners. The human judge answered that they would be treated as workers. They would receive food and shelter and medical care. They would be treated fairly, but they would also work. They would contribute to humanity's expansion among the stars. They would understand, finally, what it meant to live as humans lived. While the trial was happening, was working on something else. She had called together representatives from all the major species in the galaxy. She had invited ambassadors from the architects, the harmonics, and dozens of others. She had invited to join them as an advisor. Stood before the assembly and spoke about what came next. She said that the age of the Galactic Council was over. She said that the system that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years had been built on lies and cruelty. She said that it was time to build something new. The new system would be called the Galactic Congress. It would include representatives from all species that wanted to join. It would be governed by democratic votes rather than by the decisions of ancient, powerful beings. Each species would have a voice. Each species would have rights that could not be taken away. The rules for trade and territorial claims would be completely rewritten. Species would be allowed to develop at their own pace. Species would be allowed to make their own decisions about mining and expansion. The strong would not be allowed to take from the weak. Justice would be the same for all species, not just the powerful ones. Stood up and spoke. He said that he had served the council for his entire life. He said that he had believed the council was just. He said that he had been wrong. He said that humanity's courage had shown him the truth. He said that a new galactic order based on justice was possible. He said that he would help build it. The ambassador agreed. The harmonics agreed. One by one, the species of the galaxy agreed that the old system was finished. They agreed to help create something new. But also made something clear. She said that humanity would not be pushed around anymore. She said that humans would have a seat at the galactic table as equals, not as servants. She said that if any species tried to exploit humans or enslave humans or harm humans, then Earth would respond with the same force and determination that had defeated the Council. She said that mercy was a choice. It was not a requirement. Humans could choose to be kind, but humans would never again choose to be victims. When the time came to vote on the new Galactic Congress, the vote was almost unanimous. Only 3 small species abstained from voting, but they did not oppose the plan. The Galactic Congress was officially created. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy would be governed by something other than the ancient council. Ambassador was appointed as humanity's representative in the Congress. But he was not humanity's only voice. Behind him stood billions of human beings on Earth and in space colonies across the galaxy. Behind him stood the human military. Behind him stood the human determination to never again accept injustice. President William Cooper addressed the people of Earth from the steps of the United Nations building. His words were simple and direct. We have lost Ambassador Charles Harrison. We have mourned him. We have thought about what he meant to us and to the world. But his death was not meaningless. His death taught us who we truly are. We are not traders seeking approval from those we trade with. We are not colonists begging for permission to build our homes. We are humans. We are strong. We are just. We have returned to claim our place among the stars. The galaxy will know our strength. The galaxy will respect our justice. The galaxy will learn that when you harm a human, humans will respond. This is our promise. This is our future. The message was broadcast to every human being on Earth and in space. It was also translated and sent to the Galactic Congress. The representatives of 100 different species heard the words of the human president. Some were afraid, some were respectful, some were hopeful that this new age would bring peace and justice to the galaxy at last. Decades passed. The message of the human response to the execution of Ambassador Harrison spread slowly through the galaxy. Species that lived far from human space heard the story. They heard how an ancient power had been challenged and overcome. They heard how humans had valued justice more than victory. They heard how humans had built something new instead of just destroying the old. And slowly the galaxy changed. Trade between species became more fair. The strong no longer took from the weak. Younger species were allowed to develop without interference. Justice became something that mattered to all beings, not just the powerful. The age of the Galactic Council was truly finished. The age of human civilization among the stars had truly begun. And it had all started with one word spoken in a moment of clarity: retribution. That one word had changed everything. To a tribunal, they would be judged fairly. She said that if they continued to fight, they would be hunted down and destroyed. She said that the age of the Council was over, and now it was time to build something new. But knew that this was only the beginning. The real challenge would come next. The Council would try to organize a response. The allied species would come to the Council's aid, and humans would have to be ready for a war that could last for years. The Admiral made a note in his report. He wrote that the first strike had succeeded. He wrote that the Galactic Council, which had ruled for millions of years, was now wounded and vulnerable. He wrote that humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not as traders or miners or hopeful colonists, but as a force that could not be ignored or destroyed. The age of human submission was truly over. The attack was about to begin. The Galactic Council had no idea what was coming. In a few minutes, everything would change. The sleeper ships would come out of hiding. The weapons would fire. The communications relays would be destroyed. And for the first time in millions of years, the Galactic Council would understand that it was not invincible. Our ambassador was taken from us. The Galactic Council has shown us what they truly are. They are not our friends. They are not our equals. They are a system built on power and fear. We have lived long enough under that system. We have accepted their rules. We have followed their laws, and in return they have shown us that kindness means nothing to them. Today we change our answer. Today we show the galaxy who we truly are. We are humans. We do not forgive murder. We do not accept injustice. And we do not bow to those who think they are superior to us. Prepare yourselves. What comes next will reshape the galaxy. The message was sent to every human on Earth. Then it was sent into space, broadcast on every frequency that humans could access. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to execute a human ambassador. The age of human submission was over.